Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Before we get into this week's episode, I'm beyond thrilled to tell you that the Socially Holistic Podcast has its first ever sponsor. I'm especially excited because our sponsor for the month of January is the fabulous Tanya Gardner from the very first episode of the Socially Holistic Podcast. I absolutely love the work that Tanya does, and I'm so happy that she's our first sponsor. If you're worried that your webpage copy isn't quite as clear and powerful as you'd like it to be, Tanya from Crystal Clarity Copywriting has a free gift for you. Make Your Webpage Crystal Clear is a carefully chosen collection of 12 simple, easy-to-implement tips. Each tip is designed to stop you making some of the most common mistakes that drive readers away from your website. Get the Make Your Webpage Crystal Clear guide completely free today by going to bit.ly/clear web page. That's bit.ly.com/clear web page. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 26. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's special guest, Francesca Geens from Digital Dragonfly. Francesca does IT support for the one-person business. Hello, Francesca.
Hi, Holly.
Welcome and thank you for joining us today. I was so excited when I first found out about you because so many of the women in business that I work with are very technophobic and just terrified of technical things. And so I just was so happy to find a woman who is working with solopreneurs.
Oh, thanks very much. Yes, most IT companies focus on kind of larger businesses that are based in an office. And I really wanted to work with these independent businesswomen, give them the confidence they need to use the right technology to run their business.
And I think what you said about confidence is really, really important because that fear of technology, and technology is something that we use in every aspect of our business. And so when we've got that fear, it just really kind of holds us back from expanding our business even more. So when we have that confidence, I think it can just really, really help us on a wide scale kind of perspective of our businesses.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When I kind of start working with clients, we realize that they have all sorts of kind of setups and workarounds in place, which actually mean they're duplicating efforts, and they're wasting time, they're not feeling comfortable with the setup because maybe it's an old setup and they're dealing with lots of little funny bugs and messages. And if the computer is slow, if you sit down and you want to start working, but you need to wait a really long time to get to the, to the work you want to work on. And if you're dealing with error messages, you're going to lose your momentum, you're going to lose your focus by the time, the computer is ready to work. And that's not a great way to kind of go about your daily business.
No, it isn't. I think I realized talking to you that I've had very high standards for my own technology over the years. So it's like I've now avoided all of those kind of things that slow me down.
Yeah, no, you'd be surprised what people put up with. I'm always surprised that they think the computer is not that old, and then it's like 6 years old, and they're working on really old versions of Outlook or Outlook Express or old versions of Office, and stuff that's just not compatible anymore and that's outdated. And just doing a refresh can make a world of difference.
And I think that's interesting what you said about people putting up with things that are outdated. I just went through that this year with my husband who works with me. So, of course, since I put such a high kind of focus on technology, I want him to as well. And he had this 4-year-old Dell that was just on its last legs. And he would not get a new computer. And I just kept insisting and insisting and insisting. And because we worked together, I felt like, I had the right to nag him about it.
Yeah,
from a
absolutely.
professional perspective. And finally, he broke down and got a new MacBook Pro. And I'm so happy, and he's happy with it, and he's in love with it. And he now realizes just how much work he's getting done, whereas before he was just struggling with this awful old computer.
You just don't realize. Yeah, I went through exactly the same thing with a client of mine. She had a kind of desktop which was doing okay, but then she wanted a kind of new laptop to kind of work when she was going out and about and on the train. And then a couple of weeks of months after that, she's like, "Oh, I think there's something wrong with the desktop." And we looked at it and it's like, "Well, it's fine. It's just showing its age." I think because you're so used to a fast laptop now, you've realized what kind of normal working speeds are like. When you sit down to the desktop, you think, "Oh my God, I just can't put up with it." So we actually just moved her over. She's now using the laptop as her main computer. But yeah, it just goes to show you get used to the new stuff really quickly. And then you realize.
Yes, you do. The good stuff is always easy to get used to.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yes, it comes with a price tag, but it is a worthwhile investment because your productivity just boosts, and that's very good for your bottom line. So
it is.
I think it's worth investing in.
And it's a business investment. It's something that's going to help you run your business more efficiently. So I to me, technology is just at the core of my business. And I find it so important to just have everything functioning properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And on a kind of boring accountancy side of things, it's a business expense. It offsets your corporation tax, and it's a good way to invest.
Yes, it is. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. So Digital Dragonfly was set up 3 years ago. And I did that going through a kind of massive career change. I used to work in the art world. And I did that for about 10 years. And then I had young kids and I had a difficult return to work from maternity leave. And it was really time for a big change. So it seemed like a great opportunity to set something up where I could work on my own time from home, manage my time better in that way. And there just seemed a real niche and need in the market with this increasing number of people setting up their own businesses who have very specific IT needs. And they really kind of combined a whole load of interests for me to set up the business really geared to that niche. So that was 3 years ago. So I suppose, yeah, it's been an amazing journey. We've got loads more to do. So it's all good.
Sounds good. So tell us a little bit about your business journey. How has it changed over the last 3 years?
Gosh, I mean, honestly, when I set up the business 3 years ago, I'd never run a business before. So it's a massive learning curve dealing with, the accountancy side of things, the sales, marketing, thinking about your brand, getting a website up, the kind of copy for that, thinking about newsletters, like all of this stuff that you need to do when you're running your own business. And in the beginning, you need to do it yourself because you need to find your voice and obviously you're kind of bootstrapping. So it's a question of figuring out, what works, how to get those first clients in. And actually, I mean, a lot of my definitely the first year and a lot of the second year was spent just trying to figure out exactly what clients wanted, the types of services that really suited them. So I was very freelance in that respect of doing all sorts of little projects. And then the biggest shift that happened in the business was earlier this year when I pretty much announced that I wasn't going to do the little projects anymore, but I kind of launched a monthly package. And so, clients sign up to that and then I can just offer them unlimited help as opposed to, endlessly quoting for little bits of work. And that's really shifted the way the business can grow and the way I can manage my time looking after clients. So that happened at the beginning of year 3. Yeah, I think now the challenge is to kind of take that to the next level. But I don't think that's something you can do right at the start. You need to kind of go through and learn and adapt and evolve until you kind of find the right formula, I think.
I think that's really important what you said about the right formula, because I think especially with what you do, oftentimes what clients think they need might not be what they need because they're not seeing that gap between where they are and where they really could be.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And this actually is a really interesting challenge for me because people will say something like, well, I think I'm too small a client and I only really need help with my backup and I'd like a new computer. And actually all of these other things aren't really working, but it's a little job. And I'm thinking, well, actually, you're not too small a client. You're exactly the right size. And you've actually got quite a long list of things. So you might think that's all quick and easy, but actually to do it properly and to get the right setup, it's not. But it's hard to say that to someone who thinks, thinks that, they can buy an hour of your time and everything will be sorted. And unfortunately, it's not that easy. So yes, then I need to, it's important to communicate, the advantages of working with me and what you get at the end, and how there's more to it than just, sorting out their email or whatever. So yeah, so that, the package really works in that respect, because in a way it's an unlimited offer of help with all their business technology. And so, as soon as they sign up to that, they can come up with as long a list as they want, and we will just work through it. So it's good.
And this is your Tech Ninja plan that you're talking about now?
Yeah. So yeah, the Tech Ninja plan is the kind of get everything sorted plan. And it's a kind of 12-month, just get everything sorted. We do most of the sorting right at the start, but I suppose it's a kind of cash flow friendly way of then paying for that. But having me on hand with all the kind of questions, maintenance, little bits and pieces that come up over the year. And then after that, clients can graduate to a kind of, call it a dragonfly plan, which is much cheaper, but they get all the same benefits. But by then, I really know they're set up, it's in a good place, and any work that we need to do is a question of kind of maintaining, improving, tweaking as their own business develops.
Mm-hmm. So when you're getting set up with a new client, what kinds of things do you help them with? Technology is so broad, and now that most of us have online businesses, there are so many things to take into consideration.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the one thing I don't do is websites. So I think really that's best left to a specialist. Yeah. But so the things I focus on really at the start, we do like an IT audit where I go, okay, what have you got? How are you working? How do you want to work? How's your business going to change? And we kind of look at how they manage their email, their backup, which apps they're using, how they're working on the go, what their setup's like in the home office, how old is the hardware? Does it need replacing? Do they have a budget? How can we plan for that? What are their preferences? We just take like a full 360 view. Are they working with a VA? Are they going to bring on a VA? Do they need to share a calendar? Are they planning to work with associates? So there's just a whole load of things we need to look at. And then I can kind of come up with a bit of a prescription for the right tech services for them. So there's loads of cloud, solutions for your backup, and cloud solutions to sync your data, and apps to do, your to-do lists and projects and whatever. And people can get really overwhelmed trying to figure out which one's going to work for them. So I really help kind of narrow down that process and kind of come up with recommendations and priorities. So like for a lot of people, buying a new computer may be very important, but it's normally a much better to sort out their email first. And so, kind of I help prioritize the work that's going to make the biggest impact on their day-to-day productivity. And then we kind of work through that list.
That sounds interesting, because the thing is, I think for a lot of people who aren't used to working with technology, is that they can go online and they can find the answers to all of their questions, and they can kind of patch things here and there. But of course, you've done all the research, you have all the experience, you've seen how so many other people in business are using technology and what works for them and what doesn't. So you've got all this wealth of experience that you can use to really give them an educated kind of overview of what they need. Yeah, no, exactly.
Obviously, I think, my biggest competitor has got to be Google, because if you have the time and the patience and the inclination to, you can look up anything, and that's fine. And that's what a lot of startups will do when you have the time. I suppose my kind of typical clients have got to the point where they're really busy. And even though they could do stuff themselves, they don't want to, they can't. And others just really aren't interested. So yes, it's a question of, I just work with people like them. I've seen all the options and all the things that work, don't work, and I know what considerations to take into account. So it's a kind of fast track way of going, okay, what's the best practice tech look like for you and your business? Yeah, getting the advice. People will, cobble together their own setup, and that's fine. But then, they might not be aware that there's a new service or a different service which actually is going to suit them better. Could be cheaper, or, you might be a paid for one, whereas they're on a free one, but the advantages of the paid for service way outweigh, what they're putting up with the free service. So I can kind of highlight the differences and kind of get that all sorted for them.
And I see that you also work with international clients. So how do you make that happen?
Yeah, no, that's been really cool recently. I mean, I've got one regular client in Switzerland who was just, introduced to me from a current client here. And I've done some work kind of thanks to Twitter. I do a lot of networking with a women business group called Athena. And thanks to Twitter, the woman who runs Athena in Singapore got in touch.
Oh, wow.
And I did some work for one of her ladies, which is just amazing. I think it's great. I mean, I think social media has just been amazing at the way I've grown my business, because it just allows you to reach out to so many people that you wouldn't normally be able to connect with. And so that's what allows me to run the business kind of both internationally, but UK wide, whereas otherwise, the focus would be, I think, very local, and that would be a very different experience.
I love, obviously, what you said about social media, because that's my thing. And I think so many women that are just starting out in the business and they're still thinking very locally just don't understand how much social media can help them connect with people throughout their country and all over the world, and just really expand their reach of people that they can help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's like a global shop front. And, with technology, there's no reason why I or others shouldn't be working with clients further afield. Is absolutely no problem at all. I mean, the Singapore case was just so perfect in that respect. Twitter introduction, onto email, Skype call, remote session, did the work, she paid, done, happy client, lovely testimonial on LinkedIn. So, and now we're in touch about other things. So it's great.
I love how that went full circle. You met online and then you got the testimonial, of course, on LinkedIn.
It's great. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for me, like Twitter and LinkedIn are really good platforms, and really important.
And I like how everyone has their own favorite platform. And that's another thing that I'm constantly saying to people. If you hate Twitter, give it a try, but don't force yourself to use it, because if you hate it, you're not going to use it well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I've kind of resisted doing Facebook for business, and I'm really on the fence at the moment as to whether that's would add value if I, spent time on that. Yeah, I've kind of adopted Twitter as my main platform, and then LinkedIn is really, really important as well. But that's not so kind of chatty and conversational as Twitter is. But it's a great way to, still, I think, for the testimonials and just for kind of, building connections, it is very good.
Yes, it is. And I think testimonials really hold a lot more weight when they're on LinkedIn, just because they're so much more difficult to fake. So if someone's never heard of you, that they don't trust you because they've never seen you before, and they see those testimonials on LinkedIn, it's just so much more powerful than just some text on your website.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because you can never be sure with the website stuff. So no, you're absolutely right.
So why don't you tell us what your top business tools are, the favorite little kind of tricks and tips and tools that you're constantly recommending to people?
I think probably the main one has got to be email. So most people are using POP or IMAP for their email, and using a service like Office 365 or Google Apps for Business probably makes the biggest difference to people, because suddenly everything's synced up, it's all available in the cloud, they can access their folders, and it just opens up so many better ways of working. And as for most of us, email is at the heart of our kind of day-to-day business interactions. Getting that into a good place makes a huge difference. So email is really high on the list. And then backup. So, most people have heard of services like Dropbox and Google Drive. And so it's a question of getting the data into the right place and making sure that, they've got the right, putting it into the right cloud solution, I suppose. And then there's loads of kind of apps and things, or services that will just help with productivity. So for example, I'm a really big fan of something called Trello, Trello, which is a great, very visual way of tracking to-dos. But more so than to-dos, you can kind of manage projects, and you can share it with other people in your team as well, and kind of stay on top of who's working on what. So that's a really nice one as well. And then more recently, I've been kind of playing around and looking at more CRMs, which is a really tricky area, I think.
And very expensive as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, cost-wise, it can get very expensive. I think that really, that is something to look into. But it's a question of, when do you need it, and what are you going to use it for? And there's so many online kind of CRM offers now, they're all slightly different, and trying to get your head around which one suits you is an interesting challenge. So I've been playing around with one called Nimble at the moment, which I really love. It's actually a very social one. So when you kind of import your contacts, so like all your LinkedIn stuff feeds in and your Twitter stuff feeds in. So when you look somebody up, it tells you if you're connected on LinkedIn or Twitter, and then it feeds in all their social profiles. So it's a lovely way of kind of seeing what people do and what they're talking about and how you're connected and who else they're connected with. So I'm quite enjoying that one at the moment. So I like to play around with these things so I know what my clients are going to like.
Exactly, and whether they're going to be frustrated with it or whether they're going to find it fun and exciting or...
Yeah, I always like to recommend stuff that I either am using myself or have, really played around with, because it's the only way you can make a qualified, opinion.
And I really like how you really got down to the basics with your suggestions. I made the switch from Outlook years ago, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, to using Gmail and Google Apps for business. And it's such a huge shift because I've always got it with me. I've got it on my iPhone, I've got it on my iPad, I've got it at home. Like, if I need to check anything anywhere, it's there. It's not downloaded onto my computer in this system that just sits there. It's a huge, huge shift. And then Dropbox as well, I think I started working with last year, and just absolutely love it because I've got everything in the cloud. And again, if I'm on a train going into London, I can just access my files on my iPad and it's just all there.
Yeah, I know it makes a huge difference. I mean, very few people are just working at a kind of static desk these days. Everyone has got mobile needs, and whether they're grabbing their laptop or the iPad when they're out and about, like you say, having access to email, to your email folders, to your calendar, to your contacts, to your documents, so that you can make the most of those snippets of time on the train or on the school run or wherever you are between meetings to stay on top of your work. It just makes a huge difference. And the idea that you can do that on the go and not wait till you're back at your desk, is huge. And I think it just makes you kind of, stay kind of really competitive. If you can get back to someone with the information they need quicker than your competitor, then that's really good.
Yes. Now you've got this free resource available on your website called The Ultimate Guide to Technology for Independent Professionals, and it is amazing. It is so packed full of information.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's 43 pages, I think. And I really just wanted to bring together loads of kind of tips and tricks and best practice covering, everything from buying advice to like email backup and cloud stuff and everything in between, just to give people, I suppose, an insight into what I do with my clients. But if they want to do stuff themselves, then at least I feel like they're getting the right advice and being pushed in the right direction. But yeah, just to give people a flavor of like, if you really do sort out your tech, then this is what's possible. And once people see that, then I think, they're going to want to get it sorted and realize that they will, enjoy the experience more with a good tech setup.
Yes, very, very much more. But I think this is a huge example of really over-delivering with your free offer, because it's just got so much information in there. And it's all very, very useful, very, very practical information.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I'm kind of constantly thinking of ways to update it. So at some point, hopefully there'll be, the next version out. Because I suppose the challenge with technology is to kind of stay on top of changes, and, products are forever offering new features or changing their pricing, and new things come out. So it's really important to kind of keep it fresh. And I'm actually working on a new ebook at the moment, which is all about the right kind of technology tools for VAs, because I've noticed that a lot of my clients are now working with VAs. And there's a lot of VAs out there kind of, managing emails and calendars for their clients and needing to share documents. And technology is the solution to a really good relationship in that respect when you're working virtually. So I'm putting something together which brings suggestions for all sorts of tools for VAs as well. So keep an eye out for that one.
Oh, I like that. Thank you. Yes, I think that's going to be very, very useful because a lot of VAs seem to have a bit of tech knowledge, but they really could benefit from taking it to another level and just making that connection so much easier with the people that they work with.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose their biggest challenge is that they need to put up with or adapt to or use the tech setup that their clients is bringing to the table. And often, it can be tricky finding the right ways to overcome that. Yeah, no, it's good. I think also because they're juggling, for them, obviously time is especially precious. And if you can boost productivity and set up systems that allow them to take on more clients because they're being more efficient, then that's really good too.
What would you say are your top tips for how a one-person business can improve their technology?
Top tips for improving your technology: make sure the computer you're working on isn't really old. So, I think really anything more than 3 or definitely 4 years or older has done you really well. And it's time to look at investing at something new. So, and also if you're still kind of working with a clunky laptop that's quite heavy and that you're resisting taking out and about, then investing in an ultralight will make the biggest difference in the world, because you'll suddenly feel that it's much easier to grab the laptop and work on the go, or go and sit and work somewhere else, or change the scenery and go and work at a co-working space. Having that freedom is really, really huge and very important. So having the right hardware, and then having the right email setup, like you said, the ability to have everything available on every device is really important. And to kind of just spend a bit of time investing a bit of time understanding the software that you need to use day to day. So if you are on Outlook, spend a bit of time getting the shortcuts right, setting it up so that the viewing panel looks right to you, and just having that confidence and knowing how to quickly get through something so that your workflows are improved will make a really big difference.
Thank you very, very much for those tips. I think that's just really, really basic foundation and such important steps to get right. Again, I cannot stress the importance of having a computer that functions properly. And I think so many people tend to stretch their computer much beyond its natural limits.
Yes, they do. I see it all the time. No, absolutely, they do. And it's only once they get the new computer that they realize how much better it is.
Yes. Well, Francesca, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we sign off, I wanted to ask you, do you have any women business mentors, or are there any women in business who inspire you?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I'm really inspired by so many of my clients, and the women I network with are a real inspiration to me, the ones that are kind of further down the line with their businesses, because it just kind of shows me what's possible when you keep plugging away, and that in next year's time, things grow, and I see, how much they love the work that they do. And that's what really keeps me going.
Great. Is there anyone in particular that stands out in your mind, or anyone that you'd like to mention?
It's interesting. I think my biggest business mentor really is my husband, who I've been working with for the last 3 years, and he'd been running his business before. So he's just given me so much insight and kind of tips and tricks into, what it's like to really run a business.
Yeah, it's such a learning experience on both a professional and even a personal level.
No, absolutely. There's so much that you need to take on board. And I've also been working with a business coach kind of throughout the time as well. And I think having someone external like that, who you can meet with on a regular basis, who keeps you accountable and who questions your assumptions and kind of pushes you outside your comfort zone, is really important.
I agree with that. Working with a coach can be so, so useful. So is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we sign off?
I would just encourage people to download my ebook and just kind of see what's possible with your technology, and get to a place where you really enjoy using it, because it's a great way to change the way you work and to enjoy running your business from anywhere. And I think as solopreneurs and as women in business, we're juggling family life and kids, and we're running our businesses, and I think we need all the tools and help we can get to do all of that as efficiently as possible. And I would say, obviously, technology is at the heart of that. So I would encourage people to, get their tech sorted.
Excellent. And can you tell us, where can people find you online?
So my website is digitaldragonfly.co.uk, and you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @F_dragonfly.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your very valuable tips. And I cannot recommend enough your ultimate guide to technology. For all the listeners, please go and get this. Even if you think you're up to date with your technology or you're happy with it, this is a very, very useful resource, and I guarantee you'll find something new that you can be doing that will just help make running your business so much more efficient.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Holly. It's been great talking to you.
It's been great talking to you too, so thank you. And thank you for listening, and remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP26 for the show notes on this episode. Thank you. If you're worried that your webpage copy isn't quite as clear and powerful as you'd like it to be, Tanya from Crystal Clarity Copywriting has a free gift for you. Make Your Webpage Crystal Clear is a carefully chosen collection of 12 simple, easy-to-implement tips. Each tip is designed to stop you making some of the most common mistakes that drive readers away from your website. Get the Make Your Webpage Crystal Clear guide completely free today by going to bit.ly/clearwebpage. That's bity.com/clearwebpage. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.